want to stay with you, Dominique. A lot of us came from New York for Climate Week, which was a busy and exhausting time. Still tired from it, but very energized to be with all of you.
Yeah.
I work with Eurasia Group, and it's a political risk research and advisory firm. I focus on sustainability issues for the firm, and obviously I go to all of these conferences, and then I interact with clients across sectors on those topics. Whenever I attend those, the number one question that I get is anything actually happening when you go to those conferences? Is industry doing something? Are folks meeting? Are we having any sort of decisions that are being taken behind the scenes, or is it just for show? So I want to start with you, Dominique. Do you see any actual value? It's a bit provocative for me to ask you this here, but do you see actual value in those global gatherings? And if that's not the case, what could we do to make it different on the policy side for the fashion industry?
I think I'll answer your question from a macro vantage point. A lot of times we're looking at the stakeholders, right? How are we defining stakeholders? Private industry, the rich white folks at the top, retailers, corporate engines that are pushing decision making. I would offer folks to think about stakeholders as, of course, the garment workers, but also the farmers, their families, indigenous communities who are on the front lines of the environmental degradation and on the front lines of the colonial climate crisis, folks who have been impacted by chattel slavery, folks who are engineers, who are artists, who are scientists. Those are the folks who I believe are at the pinnacle of making systemic change because they have those rubrics in their DNA for centuries, right? And so these communities, Black and POC and indigenous communities, have been on the front lines of environmental justice. And I hope we understand that the fight for equitable fashion is under the guise of sustainable justice. Have been fighting for sustainable justice, although the language may not be as such. That may not be that may not be the dialogue that's being used, but when we're talking about environmental degradation, wage theft, throughout the entire supply chain, when we're talking about police-sanctioned violence, folks are fighting this fight. And to truly answer your question, America politics in particular are a lot more interested in the, how should I say this, the symbolism of action, as opposed to action taking place. So yes, there are small measures that do take place, and those are exceptional wins. But in our political system that has maintained colonial frameworks, a lot of it is propaganda, the facade of action and policy actually taking place. And so I'll stop there because I can go on and on. But
you're giving all of us a lot of food for thought, because the motto of the Global Fashion Summit, that was already the case in Copenhagen, that's the case here in Boston, in kind of like those big forum and gathering, without some sort of consultative efforts and processes that include and involves all voices.
100% is the farmer at the table. Is the dyer at the table? Is the social scientist at the table? Is the historian who really understands how these systems have initially worked and how they're operating and how they're keeping that engine oiled today? Are they at the table? The table that they created, actually.